van Zyl is well known as the CEO of ZZ2, one of the largest tomato producing entities in the Southern Hemisphere. I think he compares greatly with what happens in the world, in the global market. I know they've branched out into avocados and several other fruits. I know they've got a footprint now in the Western Cape as well, doing interesting stuff near Lanseria and these kind of things. Tommie, it is a great pleasure, and I especially would like to thank you that you came in as an impact player for Johan van Zyl with COVID in hospital at the moment. We appreciate that gesture very much. You have time now until 11 o'clock to make your contribution. Tommie, please.
Thank you very much, Theo, for you and the University of the Northwest for the opportunity to address you. Good morning also to all the guests and the MBA students. I'm greatly privileged to take the place of Johan van Zyl, and I did so on very short notice, Theo. Thanks for about 3 days notice, right? The response of agriculture to a crisis is probably embedded in our existential. Agriculturalists are riddled with crisis almost all the time. I think if you talk to farmers in general, their complaining is probably indicative of that. We are in a crisis, and we specifically refer to the moment, the COVID-19 crisis. I think the freshest crisis is the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng looting or insurrection crisis. A crisis that we've become accustomed to is the electricity supply. A new issue is changing of the constitution and all the land issues relating to that. Those are, I would say, crises top of our mind. But what we experience in South Africa, we're a diverse country. And the crisis that I might have here in the Limpopo as a farmer might not be the crisis that you have there in the Northwest, or that people might have in the Western Cape. However, I observed, thinking about our discussion today, a multitude of crises that we have to think about going into the future. And interestingly, I found that most of those crises we experience at present are man-made. Only a handful are, I would say externalities, like the impact of climate change on growing populations, or to some extent even population growth. But most of the, of course, COVID, but most of the crises that the crises we have in South Africa or globally at the moment are man-made. More specifically, if I refer to South Africa, not mentioning all the crises we experience, the government dysfunctionality that we experience on all levels of government, obviously it's man-made. Corruption, crime, the erosion of trust in brand South Africa, the erosion of the market and the market economy in South Africa, the resultant idle factories and lack of new successful business endeavors across all sectors of the economy, the growth of poverty, the crisis of blame shifting and unequal opportunities, which is a sure prerequisite for unequal outcomes, looting and insurrection. And I would also say moral decay, increasingly hopelessness. A very big crisis is the education crisis. and all of this are leading to the fiscal crisis. And then I also need to mention three more: the crisis of population growth and unplanned settling of the growing population. If you just fly over the landscape of South Africa, you can see where the city planners have abandoned the sea. We also have the impact of climate change. And then lastly, the disproportionate affirmation and power of unions and the inflexible labor market. All of these are the crises we have to deal with in South Africa. Now the question is, how do we as agriculturalists not only survive, but flourish amongst all of this? The quick answer is, we are living in the future with the right attitude, and I want to reiterate it, the right attitude, with the right thoughts, leading to the right word fields that we create for ourselves, leading to doing the right work and duties. The word field in my company that we like to promote is what can you do yourself? How can you strengthen your team? Can you think about higher order goals? Can you affirm your neighbor and your colleagues, all your stakeholders? Now, in short, I'm going to give you, over the next 35 minutes or so, maybe shorter, a quick overview of ZZ2's journey of becoming, not being. I want to reiterate that, of becoming, not being, over the last 3 decades. When I started on the farm, in the business, 3.5 decades ago, I asked my father what was the most important task to be done on the farm. And he said to me, poetically, to create the climate on the farm. Many years later, Professor Mervyn King came to visit us on the farm, and he asked us, one of the first contributors to his corporate report, to write a report for his publication. And he has a mantra saying, it's very important for leadership to create the tone at the top, to set the tune in the middle, and to have the resultantly proper beat of the feet on the ground. But first, before I'm continuing to explain to you the models and thoughts we use to run a successful, internationally competitive agricultural business, who is ZZ2? We're a family business incorporated as a company in 1965. And the reason for incorporating at the time was to escape the first crisis. A family business with 8 siblings has the path of destruction ahead of it once the inheritors comes to collect their piece. And my father very bravely said to his father, I'll pay you double the market price, but I want to buy the farm so I can incorporate it so that it can have a sustainable future. That's where it all started. Our ancestor, Willem van Zyl, came to South Africa in 1698. He was married to Christina van Loveren of the wine farm fame. He was a Catholic and she was a Protestant, and things became very hot in Holland for the two of them. So they immigrated to South Africa to escape the problem of the time there. He worked as the assistant chief gardener at the Dutch East India Company, Ronnebosch, Cape Town. And many of the oak trees planted in all those ancient towns was part of him and his team's handwork. He had a fallout with the VOC that was also a very corrupt institution and left their employ in 1702. And then he became a Vryburger and he got a small farm at Franshoek where he farmed for 20 years. His offspring came to the northern parts, first in Munich in 1880. That's now many generations later. I'm the 12th generation of Van Zyl in South Africa. So our ancestors came to Munich in 1880, which is 41 years ago. And they moved down to Moketsi, where we still live now, in 1908, which is 113 years ago. And they've done so after they've lost everything in the Boer War, given the scorched earth policy of the British. So what happens after that is a slow process of dedication, hard work, the right word fields, seeking all the time for a license to operate and meeting the prerequisites for successful endeavors. So nowadays we're operating in 6 provinces and Namibia, of 6 provinces of South Africa and Namibia, and we produce fresh produce. We're supplying 50% of South Africa's tomatoes. We're employing thousands of people in an industry where the income streams are not as attractive as some of the tertiary and secondary sectors of the economy. We've become a very large farming enterprise in global terms, and we have now crops to make us relevant over the long term that are expanding from tomatoes into exportable crops like avocados, apples and pears, very unique cherries from the Highveld area in the Lanseria, Polokwane areas, almonds from the Western Cape, blueberries, medjool dates from Namibia, and macadamias from the Lowveld areas. In total, we do now 230,000 tons of product, which is, that's per annum, which is about 24 interlinks per day, or close to 1,000 tons of product per day. ZZ2 is organized as an ecosystem of businesses. It's not a farm with tractors and fields and harvesters anymore. It's a, I would say, comprehensive ecosystem, a complex ecosystem where farms, packing and processing facilities, financial services, engineering services, horticulturalists, information technology specialists, technical teams, corporate services experts work together in multiple partnerships of farms, biotechnology, and marketing, even spanning across local communities and entrepreneurial partners to international partners from Italy, the United States, and Israel, work together to create a future. Now, the question now is, amidst all these crises, how do we create sustainable value? The short answer is being in touch. Also, thinking about the future all the time. Now, being in touch means you have to scan the environment. And people from the business school knows the environment in which a business operates, from the political to the legal. In farming, definitely the physical environment, the social environment, the technological environment. Each one of those impacts on our business has to be carefully thought through, and we have to be in touch and reacting in such a way that our efforts, our endeavors remain relevant. More importantly, we have to very carefully think about our each one of the stakeholders we operate together with, starting with our customers, the input providers, our trading partners, the government on all three levels, the society around us, our business partners, our knowledge partners like the university, our competitors, our employees, our shareholders, even future generations, and if you're in farming, nature. The key categorical term is it's a people's business. Except for nature, all our stakeholders are people. It's almost like the crises we experience. It's people-made. So the solution has to come from people. What is our recipe to manage amongst all of this? One of the key points is affirmation. Affirmation, which is translated in many languages. Medemenslikheid in Afrikaans, Ubuntu in Zulu, Woordtro in Sotho, Menschheit in German. In English, it's probably called compassion or humanity. We need to acknowledge each other. The next point is to think about value creation in very broad terms. For each stakeholder, we need to think about a value proposition. And then we have to put them all together and think about a value proposition for the whole ecosystem. Now, to be able to do that, we need, as business people, to think in terms of systems approach. In the world we're operating today, we can't go back to our lager. We can't go back to our farm. We're interdependent. What we do on the farm or what is done in the cities impacts each other. Even though the turmoil that happened in KwaZulu-Natal is very far from us, the impact of that from KZN to Limpopo is tremendous. We can already see it, how it disrupted our markets, our supply lines, our logistic processes. To be able to manage in the interdependence, it is therefore very important to develop the right models to empower individuals, groups, businesses to manage such interdependence. In that frame of thought, we have in ZZ2 clearly defined what we see as a system. You need to have a purpose in a system that has to relate to the programs and the activities and the functions in the system. It has to relate to the strategy. It has to relate to the structures you develop. It has to relate to the binding factors. What keeps the whole system together? What creates the climate? What sets the tone at the top, or the tune in the middle, or the beat at the feet on the ground? We have to think about the communication and the interactions in the system. Now, to make all of our endeavors relevant, we have to create an appropriate climate. And I want to give you an example of how we interpret the phenomena around us and how we let that influence our thinking. If we want to be successful beyond crisis, we have to understand the idioms of the society in which we operate. I'm going to give you a few of that. The first one is Shago Yautoga Trovela, Bumujano. That means in English, a house without respectful conduct will eat each other. Second one, Managao Reswa Amumeli. That means if you attach horns to your head, it'll fall off. There has to be authenticity. The third one, you have to tune in. If you act over hastily, you'll miss the beat. You'll fall off the wagon. Another one is which means self-help and self-reliance is going to make you less tired than waiting for instance, the government to help you. And lastly, that means a lion without a pride will be beaten by a crippled buffalo. Now, the next point I want to make, to create the right conditions, the prerequisites for success, is the matter of leadership. We have a very simple leadership test that we say from the top to the bottom, everybody should score themselves. And if you take the good leaders that we've had in South Africa, a very strong reference is ex-President Nelson Mandela. Use him as an example, and then this will be very enlightening. Leadership should be tested in terms of 4 points: the management of meaning, the management of attention, the management of trust, and the management of self. Now, if you think about President Nelson Mandela, how he very aptly united many, many diverse people by setting higher order goals that brought a lot of people together, thinking selflessly about how we can build South Africa or our different institutions or entities. The second point of focus, management of attention. If you have a crisis, you have to prioritize what is absolutely imperative and important to come out of the crisis and what serves your personal short-term selfish goals. You cannot build trust if there is not an authentic, deep-seated moral fiber. A leader that wants to build trust has to lead by example as well. And then lastly, how a leader manages self in terms of morals and ethics determines where the institution or the system is going. The next point I want to touch on as part of my answer to manage crises is the quality of leadership. You can have the leadership test passed, but you can still be a bad leader. I take a page from the Romans, the most successful, enduring enterprise, more than 1,000 years, even though we have a lot of misgivings coming from where we are about the Romans. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, had the 4 cardinal virtues, or what is called the preconditions for an orderly and a civilized society. Very simple. Prudence, to be thoughtful, considerate, and then hopefully eventually wise. Secondly, temperance, to be humility, to be humble in your approach, modesty, and to be self-controlled. Thirdly, fortitude, to be able to be fearless and unwavering when it's necessary. Fourthly, justice, which means honesty, impartiality, fairness. That determines whether leadership has quality or not. The next point in terms of leadership is the effectiveness of leadership. We have a belief in our company after we exposed our system to big thought leaders, professors in entomology, professors in architecture, professors in psychiatry. We're in an age past the age of Newton, the open systems age, which is symbolized best by Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity. If we want more references on that, you can read the book of Elijah Priguji, Order Out of Chaos. It's a very complicated book, and I couldn't read it because I'm not learned enough, but luckily I had people that could interpret it for me. The key message is, you must have in an open system an orientation towards the future. You must think about becoming, about building, not about the past, having arrived or being just a consumer. Second point of an open system is to focus on the other rather than to focus on the self. Third point of an open system is outer directedness. We're not on an island in our province, in our country, in our continent. We're part of an interconnected whole. Fourthly, relationships have changed. They're not vertical anymore. They're horizontal. Technology proves it. Uneasiness of people with authority proves it. And then lastly, change is part of our lives, and it happens in a discontinued fashion. It doesn't happen anymore linearly or gradually. You have to adapt yourself to change that was unforeseen. Now, my next point. We need to also have models to take diverse people. If you move beyond the leadership realm, you have to have models to align diverse people. I don't think many companies in the world have more diversity in their employee group than South African companies. Some people might see it as a big problem, but it's experienced as a very strong asset. And we need to find ways to align the people working together from diverse backgrounds. And I have 4 pointers to propose. The first is to develop for a business a strategy map where the interconnectedness or the causal and effect relationship is acknowledged. Kaplan and Norton from Harvard has a fantastic reference regarding that. For a business to think about the financial perspective in relation to the client perspective, in relation to the internal processes perspective, in relation to the human learning and growth perspective. A strategy map creates the ability to take complex systems and simplify it and make it possible for people from the highest level of an enterprise to the lowest level of the enterprise to understand where are we going, what's the meaning of all of this. Secondly, the notion of a company or an enterprise as a very fragile entity has been entertained by Professor Arie de Gees, who worked as a scenario planner for Royal Dutch Shell. and he also worked at Harvard University. His postulate is, if we don't protect our companies, all the stakeholders, from the government to the managers to the employees, the company's survival rate shows over time that it is a very sensitive entity. And we should have managers and all stakeholders of companies think about not only how we can get something from the company, but how can we make the company survive. And then companies should create a climate that speaks about sensitivity, that develops cohesiveness for people, that creates tolerance for different ideas, and that are prudent in terms of how they conduct their business. The company should exist for its own survival and improvement, and to fulfill its potential and to become what it can be, creating value for all its stakeholders. The third model I want to bring to you is the 4 causes of Aristotle. In 399 BC, Aristotle gave the 4 causes. Now, what a powerful tool to align people in the value channel, not to speak only about inside the business. The causa finalis must be, in a business, your customers. Now, if you and your trading partners, your input providers, everybody inside your business understands that the causa finalis is the customer, all the efforts inside the business then becomes aligned with it. And that brings me to the next point. The causa formalis is how you set up the structures in the value channel, not only inside your business, also beyond your business in the value channel for sustainability, not for maximizing profit, for sustainability. The world is changing and we'll have to adapt it. In the past, we spoke about the 3 Ps, the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. Nowadays, we're moving to integrated reporting and ESG standards, environmental, social, and governance standards. That's all part of the changing causa formalis. The next point is the causa efficiens. That is all the work done. And a lot is changing in terms of the work done. We can see the Internet of Things is going to make a lot of jobs redundant. Digitization is going to make a lot of jobs redundant. Having spare capacity, we'll be able to do things that we weren't able to do in the past because we didn't have enough hands to do the jobs. And then lastly, the causa materialis is all the materials, the physical materials we work with. We also have to be very careful. We don't accept that any of the products we work with is going to survive forever. Diets change, attitudes change, just like coal might not be part of our energy equation in the next 50 years. Maybe some of the foods we eat might not be relevant. So we have to also think in terms of all these interdependence. What happens to the materials we work with? My last point in terms of the pointers for alignment is coming from one of our dear board members, who's an entomologist. He said to us, you as vegetable farmers are really cockroaches, real generalists. A cockroach can survive from your refrigerator to your stove. You can eat your mealie meal, and if that's finished, you'll start eating your soap. That's a real survivor. But on the other hand, on the farm, I see the ant heaps. And you have this ant colony, very specialized, working together. You have the queen You have the soldiers of the fungal gardens, or the farmers in the fungal gardens. You have the soldiers protecting the whole ant heap. Specialized, very refined. It says, now what I see you've done as tomato farmers, which impresses me a lot. I always told my students to do what you're doing. You must think like a cockroach to survive, but you must do like an ant to be exemplary in what you do. Now that's to speak to alignment. The next point now is steering a new course. How can we take all of this and build South Africa into a winning nation? My first point is each one of us should do it exactly there where you are. Start doing what you can do. I want to give you an example from literature. The theater of the absurd. It's another adopted lesson from ZZ2. After the Second World War, 1945 to 1965, the theater of the absurd was used to expose alibi. And then the power of language has been proven since then. Language through the theater was used as an alibi before World War II. And there's a lot of parallels today as well. If you think how people are using slogans, words that points to alibi, excuses. Language then after that, through the theater of the absurd, was used to create identity after World War II. So at ZZ2, we try very hard to avoid alibi because it becomes negative hells, I want to call it. Finding excuses, blowing your own trumpet, looking down on others, blaming and shaming, abstractions without context, slogans, meaningless dogmatic programs, ignoring the power of real Ubuntu, woordschap or medemenselijkheid. On the other hand, we embrace and we build identity. And identity has to do with meaning, purpose, hope, affirmation, creating good and meaningful work, creative discovery, merit, very strong word in English, volition, good reasons, co-creation of a home in Africa, in harmony, in balance, creating value, creating an orderly and a civilized society. Late Afrikaans professor Johan Degenaar left these final thoughts for his fellow South African as a very strong pointer to live a meaningful life. 6 points. To look differently at the world from a multitude of perspectives. Johan Degenaar talking. Look differently at the world from a multiple of perspectives. To take the ingenuity of language very serious. Choose words carefully. Think about it. To follow the creative constructs of art in your thoughts. To appreciate the holiness of the common daily experience. To take responsibility for your own existence. To be open to the contingencies of things itself. And to let reality be what it is and to take it up in thoughts uninhibited and act upon it. I want to repeat this. To be open for the contingencies of things itself and to let reality be what it is and to take it up in thoughts uninhibited and act upon it. Lastly, South Africa, Quo Vadis. I'm talking from mainly an agricultural perspective. We're extremely richly endowed in South Africa. We should not be a developing country. We should be one of the richest countries in the world. Why? We have climate that enables South Africans to be pre-adapted to climate change. We have diversity in climate which is probably second to none, no other country, to have the ability to grow wine grapes and make wine, grow apples and pears in the south, and to be able to grow avocados and other subtropical crops in the north. Very few countries have that. Our geospatial position, if we produce everything we can produce, from minerals to financial services to agricultural products, our proximity to the emerging markets is astounding. It takes us from Durban Harbour to Singapore in Malaysia, 14 days trip by ship. From Cape Town to Rotterdam is 19 days. Our competitors is the South Americans, more specifically Peru. For the Peruvians to travel from Lima to Singapore is a 34-day trip. For us, it's a 14-day trip. We have the value of people diversity. We must find a way. We have multiple languages that we speak. We represent the whole world. South Africa is like a microcosm of the world. We've developed over time tolerance, patience, Ubuntu. We are working together. We don't need to start working together. We are working together. We have the know-how. We have out of our midst people that are space explorers. We have people in the forefront of medicine, financial services. We have the best peacemakers in the world in South Africa. We have moved people from prison to president and back from president to prison. Which other country can do that? We have wine, we have rooibos, we have technology. We know what transformation is. We have so many projects that are waiting for us. We have the mineral wealth in South Africa. Unbelievable if I read about what's happening in South Africa in terms of our endowment. But at the same time, I have a cousin that immigrated to Australia. I asked him, how many of the mineral deposits in the world has been discovered? He says to me, less than 2%. So I said to him, now, why did you leave South Africa? He says, the people issue. South Africa is not conducive for discovering what we need to discover. So where are you now operating? Working on the other 98% of the minerals that needs to be discovered. He works in Australia, Russia, Canada. What a loss. We need to bring them back here. Lastly, in terms of our history, South Africa is so richly endowed. Right here on our doorstep, we have Australopithecus africanus' grave, 2.44 million years ago. The oldest early humans, there at Lanseria. Fire at the Wonderwerk cave at Kuruma, 1 million years ago, where Sabletooth was conquered by the first mammals, or the first early humans. We have the first, or the oldest art existing on Earth at Blombos Cave on the East Coast, 75,000 years ago. So what do we need? I would say we need in South Africa to work very hard to re-establish ourselves, to be what we are. We're a very powerful nation, powerful in our diversity. And from a farming perspective, we must open up the markets in the East so that we can spur the development from the agricultural industry that is so much needed to create, I would say, very low-cost jobs. It's good jobs because we're going to earn foreign exchange. Now, once you do that, and my quick calculation is within 10, 15 years, we can increase the product we sell with 40 billion rand per annum, just the superfruits going to the East. I would say we need a nation that has volition, the will to power. And then lastly, Chair, I would ask everybody in this audience to relentlessly drive to meet all the prerequisites for successful endeavors. You're not going to win the lotto. To be successful, there's a lot of prerequisites that has to be met. And all those boxes have to be ticked if you want to be successful. And it depends on each one of us, not on the government, not on a third party, each one of us individually. Our experience in ZZ2 is testimony to that fact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tommie. While I'm asking Benedict Modise to provide a word of thanks, I would just like to share the screen for a moment to show the screen sharing where am I now? Stop sharing. Just give me a brief moment. There we are. No, it's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. In any case, I wanted to show you something, but I can tell you about it. While Tommie was talking, I was thinking of a visit to his farm where I met Penny. Now, those of you listening to traditional music, and those of you like Christo Bishop that specializes in branding and marketing, if you've got a singer that uses your name like ZZ2 in a song that is on the hit list, you will then know that your brand has arrived.